Campbell and Kanea. So I'm going to go ahead and let them get started.
All right, thank you. I think we want to begin just by asking everybody to go around and say a little bit about who they are and what drove them to art in the first place, and stuff about their work as well. So can we start with the people on Zoom? Ms. Oswald.
Hi, I'm Ms. Oswald. I'm 21, so you don't need to tell me that. But thank you. I appreciate you being respectful. My name is Riley. So I'm currently a junior at the University of Colorado Boulder. I graduated Carolina Day in 2023. I'm getting my BFA in acting right now, so I do acting. I'm also a writer, and I'm also a comedian. This past summer, I spent time in Chicago at the Second City. I did a 6-week program there. And kind of what drove me to arts in the first place, I don't know. I'm just here. And I just it's always what I've done. And I don't really know anything else. So if someone asks me to do something else, I don't know. So that's where I'm at right now. Let's move on. I'm done talking.
Thank you. Could we go to Ms. Harris?
Yeah, hi. I'm Elisa Harris. I'm a film and television actress, mom, and artist. I've also done graphic design work for almost 4 decades. I'm a 1986 graduate of Asheville Country Day School, and I was just recently inducted in the Alumni Artist Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Rice?
How's it going, everyone? My name's Candler, and I'm a touring musician, kind of out of the Carolinas and Nashville, and I play with a bunch of country artists, and I play solo as well, but I'm a keys utility player, so kind of that 5th member that kind of fills out the group. But yeah, I've been doing it for about 3 years now, and yeah, I love it, and I'm very passionate about music, and I've always loved it, and I feel very lucky to be doing this right now.
Awesome. Could we go to the table? You want to start?
Sure. My name's Genevieve Beatty. I graduated from CDS in 2020, and I graduated from RISD, or Rhode Island School of Design, in 2024 with my BFA in Fine Art and Painting. I've been painting as being a fine artist in Asheville, selling my paintings for the last year. So yeah.
I'm Chris Irving. I'm a director and executive producer on a production company that I've worked on television shows, movies, lots of big commercials, basically work for every advertising agency in the world, brands, Coca-Cola, Apple, Nike, all of the kind of normal stuff that you guys would be familiar with. I've been doing this my entire adult life, so just, what's it called? It's a wear many hats, master of none kind of situation. Right.
I'm in the middle. My name is Brenda Lilly. I was Brenda Lunsford Lilly. I graduated from St. Genevieve's many, many, many years ago. Carolina Day School houses our school since it shut down. And so I'm a writer, a television writer, screenwriter. I began as an actor, and I graduated from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. Started a couple of theater companies. My husband and I moved to Los Angeles, where I did film and television acting until I decided I didn't want to do that because I was pretty much tired of being cast as a young mom and not being either. I decided to start writing and started writing television. Created a series called State of Grace that was on in the early 2000s. Frances McDormand, Alia Shawkat, Mae Whitman were in it with the stars Dinah Manoff. I also wrote for Xena Warrior Princess. I also wrote for LA Law and a number of other shows. Then moved back to Asheville where I continue to write. I teach screenwriting at Western Carolina University for fun.
Hi, I'm Hope Larson. I graduated from CDS in 2000, and I have a BFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm a cartoonist, so I write and draw graphic novels, mostly for middle schoolers, so I guess y'all don't have my books in this library, but they're probably across the street over there. I did the graphic novel adaptation of A Wrinkle in Time. That's my most well-known book. I wrote Batgirl for a little bit. I've worked for comics publishers like Boom. Mostly I work for book publishers. Currently I'm working for Harper Alley, which is a comics imprint of HarperCollins. And my most recent book, which came out in the spring, is called Very Bad at Math. It's about an 8th grade girl who has dyscalculia.
My name is Jessie Kitt, and I'm Valencia Kitt's mom, who's a junior here. And I am a photographer, an event photographer commercially, portrait photographer more creatively and commercially. And also I'm currently the gallery director at the Russell Armstrong Gallery downtown and represent 2 Asheville-based painters. I originally attended UC Berkeley for about 4 years, and then a relationship brought me to Asheville, where I transferred to UNC Asheville. And I've been working, one thing led to another, and really photography was one of my last classes. I'm super ADD, so like every class I took, I was like, yes, this, painting, sculpture, printmaking, installation, I loved it all. And when I graduated, or near my graduation date, some of my friends were getting married and were like, oh, you're a photographer, will you shoot my wedding? And one thing led to another, and that kind of became my money-making gig for 20 years. And yeah, I've supplemented creatively around that also since then. So.
Awesome, thank you everybody. We're just going to begin with a couple of questions. Anybody can answer these, and then we'll go into some more specialized questions for each guest, but you're still free. Feel free to answer those questions as well. We're going to begin with what first inspired you to explore your artistic discipline? And anybody wants to take that, go ahead.
Well, I'll start. So speaking of, I actually come from a family that was so excited that I was going to be an actor. I know that that's hard to believe. Many people in my family are musicians, my extended family, not my immediate family. There's a stage downtown that's named after my great uncle, Bascom Lamar Lunsford, who was a big folk singer and recorded a lot of songs in the mountains in the early 1900s. And so to be an artist in my family was to be great. If I had said I was going to be an accountant, they probably would not have been as excited. So in that way, I felt very supported. And I don't know, there always seemed to be music around. We were always taken to museums. We were always taken to theater. St. Genevieve's was a big supporter of taking us to symphonies and theater. We did theater in the school, even though it was a girls' school, and we played all the boys' roles. And so I acted from a very young age at Christ School when they were doing plays and they needed girls to be in it. So that was kind of the world that I knew. I was going to be an architect, and then too much math. So I decided I would go another way. So I always was writing and acting and doing that. So I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, I've always been artistic since I was a little kid. I was always writing and drawing and reading, and I got super hooked on comics when my dad took the family to France for a year when I was like 8, and there's a huge comics culture in Europe and especially in France. So I started reading Tintin and Asterix, and they have, yeah, like I got hooked and came back, got into manga and indie comics here, and eventually just kind of started making comics for fun and fell into the comics indies scene. It was very welcoming and warm, and I just sort of got into it and never left. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so if I may, I think a counterpoint to that and to build on some of what you're saying, Hope, is that, you know, so when I was, you know, not much older than most of you guys, I played music, and that was sort of a passion of mine, and there was a lot of opportunity in the web space to, you know, capitalize on these new opportunities to create art, right, commercially. And my dad, when I called him and told him that I was gonna quit the job that I had and pursue this, he says, "You're ruining your life." Okay, so, but the core component for me was that, you know, playing music was where my community was. That's where I found the people that were like-minded, that shared my passions, and it really, I think that theme of having a community and finding the people that think like you, that are going to push you in, you know, in that space and push you to succeed, that's really kind of core in any creative art. And so that's, you know, that's where I kind of found my home at an early age and then built on that.
Anybody on
Me?
the Zoom?
Can I? Yeah. I've been on stage for 52 years. So I started performing 5 years old at Asheville Community Theater, and then when I started at Country Day, there wasn't a theater department here. So sophomore year, I think, a group of us students started a theater program here at Country Day, and then when I went off to college, I had a advisor say, what are your favorite things to do? You know, that whole spiel of where you're going to go to college and what you're going to do. And I was like, well, I enjoy acting. I love speaking in front of people, leading groups. I also do artwork. I was really passionate about doing artwork in the art studio. And she was just like, well, communications is probably where you're going to go into. And I was like, that sounds like it marries a commercially, you know, viable thing for me to do. So I went to college and studied communications and graphic design work, and wound up working for, moved to Wilmington after college and living in Boston and London, and wound up working for all the theater companies here in town and film and television studios doing graphic design work. And then 20 years of that came around, and then I became a talent agent, and I represented actors for film and television. And then retired from that job, opened a dinner theater, and then the whole time I had been acting. And my current agent was a friend of mine that we did theater together, and she was just like, I'm going to start an agency, and I've been with her for 25 plus years now. So that was kind of my trajectory. So always be, if you're not in what you want to do, be adjacent to what you want to do, and you might find the true path of where you're going.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions or like answers to?
I want to just say, my mom was a high school art teacher, so always taking us to lots of cultural arts events in California. And then when I got to Berkeley, I was like, I'm at Berkeley, I could be an astronaut. So I was like, I like jokingly say I went through the A's. I didn't get very far. It was like astrophysics, anthropology, art. And then I just remember one of my initial intro to visual thinking, one of their basic introductory art classes at Berkeley. I remember leaving that class and feeling like the world looked and everything was like my reality just like shifted. Everything was like, I just felt different. Everything, my mind was blown. Like something about the people, the conversation, and it just hit me then. These are the people I want to hang out with for the rest of my life. Done. Like, and so I just wanted to say that that's my hope for the purpose of college, that you can like pull up to the all-you-can-eat buffet of trying things out and find what is delicious to you. You know, I hate that there's so much pressure to go in with your known major. Like, don't worry about it. You can change it a bunch of times. Just saying.
Gosh, well, does anyone else have any last things to say about this question?
If I could just say something on what Alyssa was saying, I think that's really important. I started out as an actor. That's what I majored in college. I had a BFA degree in acting, and did a lot of theater when I graduated. I, immediately started working in dinner theater, which is where you actually learn how to act, because people are eating while you're doing it. It's like, what's going on? And then when I got to Los Angeles and started to pursue it in film and television, and found that there's a very narrow casting world in film and television. It's so much based on what you look like. If you look like a young mom, those are the roles you're going to get. If you come out of a certain school, you may have more opportunities, but it's a very specific world. And I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not fun. This is not what I wanted to do. This is not what I was passionate about. But I thought, what am I going to do now? I spent all my money going to school. Now what? And I think what you're saying is really true. I thought, okay, I've spent my first part of my life outside of school, and I looked back and I said, I've been reading plays my entire life. I have been performing my entire life. I've been saying words that someone else wrote for my career. And I thought, I've got to be able to take all of that and just move it someplace else, adjacent. And so I think in what you're saying, I thought, well, if I can say these words, then I can write these words. And being a voracious reader, just reading, all of it kind of meshed, and I just made this sort of lateral move into writing, and that worked. But at the same time, when I was out there, I also did art direction. I'm a director. I direct films now and plays that and I write plays. So, it's kind of, art is like a giant tent that you,
totally.
Once you step in.
Yeah, so a career in the arts is really, just to kind of maybe pull this together a little bit, is that it's like a lifelong commitment to discovery, to learning, to growth. If you had asked me when I was 18 what I wanted to do, maybe I wanted to be a rock star, right? And then maybe I was going to produce records and score movies after that, or whatever. And those were what I thought I would want to do. 10 years later, I wanted to, do something different. But there's like this cumulative effect of everything that you learn along the way becomes useful. And one of the biggest mistakes that I think you can make is to look at something, even say, you guys, maybe you're super art, English, right, you're literary, you say, well, science, math, that doesn't apply. I'm not interested in that. Well, all the math that I thought I wouldn't use, I ended up using. In filmmaking, there's architecture, there's math, there's fashion, there's lighting design, there's graphic design, there is, there's writing, right? There's photography. There's so many skills. There's tons of business, and like finance. It's just all of these things wrapped into one big sort of, into one big project. And if you just continue to build on all these like little things and tuck them away in your backpack. It's like playing a video game, and you think that'll never be useful. And 30 years later, you're like, oh man, I'm glad I remembered that thing, And so, it's just a lifelong commitment to discovery and learning. And you don't have to know the answer. You just have to kind of take the next step and continue to build your community, right? So your community is going to be where you find your adjacent opportunities, where you learn about what those opportunities are. A lot of us had no idea. I mean, you grew up in an artistic family, but I did not. My dad was like, doctor, lawyer, right? So I couldn't go to my dad. My dad is like, you did this? This is something you can do, you know? And I think that's pretty common. So you find your community and you learn with them, and you know, you learn by doing and just continue on.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you. So on to something that you all touched on. How did you decide which college or program to pursue for your artistic interests, and how did that influence your work today?
I wanted to get as far away from North Carolina as I could.
That's probably common.
I wound up in Boston. My first choice was California.
I actually started at the at Rochester Institute of Technology. I thought I wanted to go into film, and so I did like my freshman year in the film program there, and realized I don't want to go into film actually. Transferred into illustration, and didn't feel like that program was really quite the right fit. So then I transferred to School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which is much more fine art. It's more fine arts based, and there was less commitment to a specific discipline. It was more like interdisciplinary artistically, which really worked for me at that time of my life. I was able to just like really explore. I did a lot of printmaking, and I did like painting and all of that, and you know, was sort of self-taught for the comics stuff.
I want to jump in. So I knew from a pretty young age what I wanted to do with my life, and that I wanted to paint. And so when I was in like 7th grade, I was researching colleges of, well, my dad was very like, okay, fine, if you want to paint, you have to go to the best art school. And so I was researching the colleges to go to on what would be the best for painting specifically. That's where I found RISD, and I had my heart set on it. I had a goal, and I went all through high school. Every move I made was to get into RISD. And then once I was there, a very funny experience of a hard time in the world of, I graduated right when COVID happened, and that totally affected all of my college experience. And so that really shifted what college would look like for me. And I realized that I made a lot of mistakes with how I was thinking about college and what I was looking for in that kind of college experience. And so I think sometimes, like in high school, you can get very, very focused on like maybe the like achievement of things, or focused on the career path or the college you're looking for, and you might totally excuse things of like the weather of the college you're looking at, or like how far away from home, or trying to move there, or like what, like is it in driving distance? How are you going to move back and forth? How are you going to get home for holidays or not get home for holidays? And or student-teacher ratio, that you are such important things to think about what works for you when looking at colleges.
That is so smart. I didn't think of anything like that.
Yeah, you don't, and
I thought, what sheets do I need?
yeah, you like just get focused on what you think college might be like, or where you want to be, like that you just want to get out of the state, or you just want to get as far away from your parents as you can, and then you don't think of like how difficult it is to actually move that far, or to get your dresser there, or your bed, or what you're gonna do with all your furniture during the summer when you go somewhere else. Or there's a lot to think about, and I think that like
or no college at all.
Or no college at all. I also think.
It's not a popular decision in well, you're in a high school situation right now, but sometimes your path in the arts doesn't necessarily have to take you through college. I mean, it's just depending on how skilled and passionate you are at the time that you're at. I mean, don't waste your money on a college education in the arts if you're not going to pursue it. Definitely go to college for other things, for the experience and for an education, but there are lots of other arts opportunities beyond the college route.
That was not an option.
Don't tell your parents that I said that.
Yeah, I could speak personally to that also because I didn't actually graduate college. I was, for a lot of reasons, but basically, and in my house, both of my kids, it's not optional, they have to go to college. And I would never recommend that you don't go. But, at the time that I was coming up, the opportunities and the specific things that I was doing, if you were to go to school to learn about those things, you would end up far, far behind because the rate at which it was very similar. The analog for today would be AI, right? So today AI is this bleeding edge technology. Adults don't really understand it that well. I don't know how, to what degree kids, I'm going to assume that you guys are probably, better at early adoption with these types of things. But the bottom line is, at that time, it was an emerging technology, the web and stuff like that, a lot of this multimedia stuff, it being in the hands of people, like you guys can just make stuff on your phones and computers. When we were growing up, that was not a thing. It was very expensive and hard to get access to that type of environment. And so, moving into that, it was like, it was changing so quickly. If you went to a university, you'd end up, far, far behind, lacking in the skills. And, I think that if I were going to go to school today, I would base that on three things, right? Is first, right, like you were saying, I think the environment has to be a place that you can succeed. That's probably number one, right? So think about all those environmental variables, whether it's a big school, small classes, large classes. Number two, you want to be able to build your community, right? So that for me is going to be a constant theme. The people you know now, I mean, I can count all of my best friends I met when I was not much older than you. These people will stick with you for the rest of your life. So you want to choose a place that you feel, will enable you to build a community of like-minded people. And then three, I think, I'm sorry, like Elisa said, is really, really consider broadening the scope. Like if you're, you want to be an actor, you want to be a producer, learn about business, learn about financing, learn about sales. The people that control the property, right? Writers, producers, the people that are actually saying, hey, I have the money to get this thing made. Those are the people that have the jobs that are controlling the levers of the game, right? If you just simply want to be a star, it's going to be much harder starting from nowhere, trying to get into someone else's property than if you're, Sylvester Stallone and you wrote Rocky and you say, I have this great film, but I want to star in it. So it gives you leverage, to do what you want. So broadening that lens and saying, I'm going to learn about some of these other things that go into the, the full mix would be a good idea.
I want to just toss the ball a little bit to Candler because I know his path is a little different. Like he went to college and he went to college to play, I think he was playing golf, right, Candler? And then ended up doing something totally different. So I want to kind of toss the ball over to you real quick too because you can go in thinking you're going to do something like other people have expressed and end up doing something totally different. So tell them a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I ended up going to App State, and I played on the golf team there. And my senior year, I kind of blew up my knee, and I tore my ACL, and couldn't really do anything for a while. And I played some piano and played some music, and always loved music my whole life. And just kind of picked it back up and fell in love with it. And luckily, Boone is full of a lot of really good musicians. So I kind of got into the scene there and ended up playing with a guy named Adam Church who used to play with Luke Combs, and then we went on tour with Luke Combs, and it just kind of spiraled from there. But I think it's a perfect example of you never know when an opportunity is going to kind of knock on your door. And when I got that opportunity with this Adam guy, it was at a time when I was a decent musician, but I had no idea if I could do that or not. And I just kind of told myself, I was like, all right, I'm going to practice more than I even think I need to. And ended up learning so much from those guys. Yeah, and I don't know if this is necessarily the right path to take, but I think it's important to be open with whatever comes your way, and especially if you love something, go try it even if it's out of your comfort zone or you don't know if you can do it, and learn from the people who are, doing it and who are good at it, and, be a sponge. That's a good way to be.
Always learn from people who are better than you.
Totally.
And for people who are worse than you.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you go into the arts, and you go into college and you go into the arts, you would be surprised at what you're going to learn. I was flying back to Los Angeles. I was with my sisters in New York. I had a couple of hours where I had to go to the airport. She said, I've got this chaise and I've got the fabric and I can't find anyone to recover it. And I said, oh, I can do that. And so I got the material and cut it up and put it all together and did it. My father looked at me and he said, how did you learn to do that? And I said, I was a theater major. We had to do this, in school. So you're going to learn a lot. And you're absolutely right. Just learn everything. Learn everything, because in the arts, it's all going to come back. You're all going to, if you want to be an astronaut, learn that and then write about it, in a play or in a film or whatever it is.
Exactly, right.
I think I'd like to just ask real quick, what if there was any advice that you would give to your past self before you started this creative journey that would have made things, I guess, easier or better in some way?
I feel like the advice I would probably give to myself is the advice that my parents gave to me that I did not take. Was to basically major in something that would allow me to reliably make a living as an adult. And my dad taught economics for many, many years at UNCA. And he wanted me to get my master's and to teach as like I don't want to call it a fallback, but when you go into the arts, there's just no guarantee of success. And he was concerned that I was going to be okay. And as a parent now, it's probably the advice that I would give to my child. She's 6, so she's got time. But you're young, you're going to do what you're going to do, and you're going to be okay. Take some risks.
Yeah, that's the truth.
There is something to be said for having a fallback, but if you are passionate and you are good and you have mentors that can guide you and tell you that this is what you should be doing, listen to your mentors. And your mentors don't necessarily have to be teachers. They could be your guitar teacher. They could be, the director of a play that you're doing, or just find your mentors and the people that speak to you. I got lucky that I did the right path for me. I don't have any regrets, because I studied advertising and communications, and I wound up being an art director in an advertising agency, and this was all right before computers. So we were still doing everything by hand, cutting and pasting things into books and all that stuff. But I worked for, then I wound up finding my theater tribe again, and then that took me on that adjacent role. So it was like I was still doing the thing that I graduated knowing. I got a degree in communications and a degree in psychology. I got 2 degrees, actually. Psychology helps a lot, too.
Yeah, totally. I would just say creativity it's not a competition. First and foremost, that's a trap that I think a lot of people fall into. And then right there with that is that it's a team sport. And so the bigger your team, the bigger the opportunities that you can take on will be. It just all comes back to community again, right? Is supporting one another. If you know other creative people, say you're a painter, and oh, there's this other really talented painter at my school, and I really want to get into this school. It's not, there's enough opportunity for everybody. You're going to do a lot better, I think, overall in the long haul if you can learn how to support other creative people, and build that community as opposed to looking at it as like I need to beat these people. That's a real fundamental, I think, perspective shift.
I would say to have faith in yourself, because I think if you're in the arts, that's such a subjective field, and I think a lot of creative people can sometimes put their self-esteem into their art. And I found for myself in college, I strayed away from I was after college, after I graduate, I'm not gonna want to be an artist because that requires so much grind and hustle to it. And I was I don't think actually I want it that much. So I started going more into a museum route and more into a historical conservation route. And because of that, I stopped paying attention to and looking at the advice or the things where teachers would talk about the more professional things to do to be an artist, or how to actually do that. And then once I graduated, I realized I did want to pursue being a fine artist. And so I'm having to kind of figure that out on my own, and I can't, I wish I had asked some of those questions while I was with those professors, and or paid more attention to that and not get distracted by the more practical route to go on.
I guess I have just a couple quick things, and I hope that I don't there's a couple in my brain that they're spinning around a little bit. But one of them is I feel there's so much pressure on young people to choose the right path. And one thing I just want to say is life's a choose your own adventure book, and there are multiple right paths. Either whatever path you take, you're going to be learning stuff along the way. So just remember that. And then the other thing I think is I feel in our society we're production, acknowledgement, post it, likes. I think it's one of the best pieces of advice for creative people that I've heard is to develop a discipline around creating and let it be private, let it be for yourself, and if you're like me, you're gonna have a million creative interests. So whether that's poetry, drawing, photography, art history, you don't have to be, you can be what did you say, Matt?
Oh, yeah, what is the saying?
Master of
Somebody help
none,
me out with that. It's the jack of all trades,
master of one.
Yeah,
Just allow yourself space and time to unplug, put away your phone, and just play. And that is going to feed you and ultimately help any creative path you decide to go on. So, just wanted to say that.
I want to talk.
Having a business in the arts is way different than being an artist. So there's that whole, to follow up on what she just said is, if you're passionate about art, keep your passion about art, and then a business in the arts is a whole different beast.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I want to ask Riley to answer this question, because it wasn't that long ago that you were here, and so now being in college, what do you wish that you would have done differently being here at Carolina Day School?
Well, definitely apply to more schools. I applied to 4 schools. Don't do that. And I only got into 2. Don't do that either. Don't only get into 2 schools. Maybe like don't do that. But in terms of like when it came down to like picking schools, I was more focused on, because I'm getting my BFA and I knew that I wanted to do acting. I knew that I wanted to pursue the performing arts in some way. I also wanted to focus on like still being sort of a well-rounded student, so I didn't only apply to like conservatories I applied to a conservatory, they rejected me. Anyway, so I applied to schools with a BA in theater versus a BFA, so I would have the opportunity to sort of be a little bit more of a well-rounded student instead of just only focusing on the arts. And so I applied to the University of Colorado Boulder because my parents went there, and my brother, awkward. Anyway, and my cousin goes here now. I don't know if you guys know Eleanor Turner. That's literally my cousin. She goes to last year. She goes here too. Guys, we're taking over. Stop applying to anyway. I'm losing track of what I was saying. But so I came to Boulder. It's a massive school, and so I'm being in the theater department. It was sort of like having a small school like within a big school, which was really nice. But I'm still like not forced. I'm not gonna say forced. That's not a great word, even though that's how I feel. I am told to take multiple classes outside of my discipline, such as, natural science courses. And so I'm in a Disney class right now, guys. We got Disney movies, and I'm getting a social science credit, so really anything is possible. And I'm realizing now that I'm maybe not great at panels. Who knew? After a period, okay, I'm a comedian, that was funny, great. Good job. So I guess just sort of like focusing on like finding your discipline, even if you don't know it, like that's super chill too. But like once I kind of found my discipline, sort of like looking where I could pursue it while also pursuing other things at the same time and apply to more than 4 schools. That's my advice. There we go. Someone else start talking, please.
Yeah, I was the first person in my family to graduate from a 4-year university. So the college experience, it was important for me to do, just from that perspective, but I'm also still the first person to have pursued that in my family.
I just wanted to ask, how do you see AI and newer technologies coming up? How do you think that will change opportunities for creatives? I guess it's just like, do you have any advice for the next generation?
I have some.
I hate AI. Stop using AI. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I'm actually suing
Really,
Google
I
right
hate
now,
AI so much. I'm like, die.
Yeah.
Very good. That's like really like aggressive. But AI is seriously, it's taking over, especially in the acting sort of like world of things. I don't know if you saw the movie Marty Supreme with Timothy Chalamet is coming out, and Kevin O'Leary is in it. And Kevin O'Leary was like, "What if we just hired AI people to be extras, and we wouldn't have to pay anybody?" That's horrible. That sucks. Don't be like Kevin O'Leary. AI is taking jobs. AI is taking water. AI is taking creativity. Every time you plug a thing into ChatGPT or whatever the heck, you're losing that part of your brain that is so important. Guys, we need creativity. We need the arts. Say no to AI. Stop using it to write your little essays. Stop using it to write your discussion posts that you have to turn in on MyCDS. Stop doing it. You're better than this. We know you are. You guys go to Carolina Day. It's a great freaking school. Don't use AI. You guys are way better than this. Okay. Great.
I would say the most at risk career would be like graphic design, and anything design related is like, yes, don't use AI, but people are going to be using AI until they have a very good reason not to. And so what used to be a more practical route to go within the arts being design is no longer, I would consider, a good idea. But I think fine art, I don't think it would affect fine art as much, and that is already such a subjective thing that is valued for it being created by a human, that people, I think that's going to become even more valuable, is a handmade thing, and not, like, I think that it's already a luxury good, it's going to be even more so of a luxury good.
Sure. I think that art fundamentally is about voice, right? So it's about your expression of your creativity. It's about, you know, and really what differentiates, you know, your sitcom about, you know, two girls growing up in the city from someone else's is your voice. And AI is just a tool. A lot of what comes out of AI is you know, it's gonna be uninspired. And whether or not AI is a tool, if you're able to sort of, you know, use it and manipulate it to get a unique voice, I think that's unproven. We don't know yet. And so where that's gonna go in the next 5, 10, 15 years, it may be how people operate in 15 years. But the point is that it's not the tool, it's the person behind the tool, it's you. And so don't crutch on AI as like a giving you your ideas. It's really about making lots of stuff, right? So don't wait for permission to make your thing. We're all our own worst critic, right? We're perfectionists, no one can see this. I encourage all of you to make lots of things. The way to get better in the creative arts is to make lots of stuff. It's a practice. And if that involves AI, then, you know, focus on developing your unique voice, right? What makes you special? What makes your work interesting? And make sure that that's, you know, that's present at the end, you know, and it's the way to get there is practice.
And don't do your college applications with AI because they detect that stuff and they just dump it. 7 out of 10 applications there was some college admissions group that said 7 out of 10 of their applications were created with AI, and they have those detectors that's what AI is going to turn into, is that it's going to be able to detect when you're doing AI, and so you might as well just do your own stuff.
Plus, it's really scary. I mean, I was talking the other day about something and then looked down and somehow had pasted something into a search engine that I thought was something else. And the search engine took what I had pasted in and then everything that I said and created this entire biography about me. And I'm going, I mean, I can't tell you how freaked out I was. I thought, how is this happening? How is what I'm saying becoming that? And as a writer, and you were talking, I have a number of friends that are in lawsuits now because once you have something that's in print, all of my scripts can be taken, and my writing that I've done can be taken and put into other things. You know, network executives, and probably has been. Network executives used to say to me, well, if I had the time, I would write this myself, but I'm going to have to get you, Scribe, to write it. And so now they've got AI, and that's what they will do. They will take any idea that you have and they can exploit it, and it does worry me tremendously. I think you're right because, you know, AI hasn't figured out how to use a paintbrush yet.
I don't think it ever will.
And I'm hoping that it never will, and I hear people say they'll never be able to capture a voice, and yet I could sit down and say, tell me a story about 2 girls, you know, who grew up in a small town. One is Jewish, one is Catholic, which was my series. And they would come up with something and I'd say, okay, we'll change this to a girl who's from this world. And in 15 seconds it will change. Is it going to have my voice? No, because the reason that we wrote that series was because of Columbine. Because I said, I grew up in a world where that was never anything that ever entered my mind. So the premise of that show was something that AI would never have come up with. That authenticity that you're talking
Sure.
about, that artists have, and that authentic voice that, you know, is specific to the artist, to your vision, to your, you know, your what you want to do, your photography. What is it you want to capture? And the problem that we have is if all of a sudden nobody cares. Nobody cares whether I did it or whether a computer did it. These songs that are coming out, one went to the top of the chart just yesterday, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, they create a whole fake singer, a whole persona, you know, and that's dangerous. So do not support them. As Riley was saying, this is not something that we should be allowing into our worlds. And, you know, as what you were saying, artists should be paid. If you are an artist, if you do something, put a value on your work and save your money because you don't know when you're going to get paid again. All of this is such wisdom. I can't believe. I wish I had had this. Somebody telling me this when I was. But I can also tell you, as a college professor now, I can read your stuff and I can tell what's AI. First of all of the spelling is correct, you know, which is something I still can't do. But, you know, what I look for when students come in to trying to get into our film school is someone who's passionate about what they want to do. It may not be what they're going to do, but at the moment that they come in, they say, this is what I have got to do. I've got to do this. I can't think of anything else I want to do. They may get into college and say, well, maybe I do want to be a piano player instead of a golfer. I think you made the right choice.
There are some things that are still going to be sacrosanct, I think, that AI can't touch, like, I mean, live theater, you know, like, you can't create I mean, you might, but it's not going to be the same thing.
Holograms, we're gonna start using holograms.
The problem is that live theater now is costing, you know, $500 to go to a show.
Sure.
Kill the computers.
I'm getting off this call and I'm throwing my computer out the window.
I just sat in on a panel of AI in the arts too, and it was it was a bunch of fine artists and how to use AI tools to help market your small business if that's not what you do, and how to get inspiration. But the thing that I took away from that whole meeting was that every time that you put in a chat into AI and it rotates around, it's like a microwave oven being on for a minute. And so the ecological repercussions of AI is one of the things that sticks in the front of my cerebral cortex right now.
Also, don't use AI for creative purpose. Like, if you're using it to generate creativity, then you just don't have creativity. Like,
Don't be lazy.
I think it's one thing if you're using it as like a tool for like marketing. Then maybe you're an artist and you're not good at marketing and you're using it for another source or another thing. But if you're using it like you're a concept artist and you're using it to help you create a character or character design, that's just being lazy and you're stealing from yourself. Don't do that. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Good question.
I think that's all the time we have. I don't know if Ms. B, you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I'm sure I've talked a little bit, and some of the alumni that are here know that I believe in mentorship wholeheartedly, and so if anything spoke to you today and you want to connect with any of the panelists that are here today one-on-one to talk about things, I'm pretty sure that they would probably not turn that down. I can't speak for you. Give me a nod if you're like okay with that. Okay, awesome. So mentorship is huge, especially alumni giving back in that way with our Wildcats that are here in this room. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us, all of you, via Google Meet and here in person. And so let's give them a round of applause. So